Well, hi there. So in this video, we're going to do 4 practice problems related to comparative advantage, where we try to figure out who has comparative advantage and then who's going to import or export a particular product. So let's get started. Okay, so the first 4 of these problems says Atlantis and Xanadu, and they can produce helmets and baseballs. If it looks familiar, it's the same problem, the basic problem, as in a prior practice set. First, it says they have constant opportunity cost, so we need to know that to be able to do comparative advantage. Calculate the opportunity cost for one helmet for Atlantis. We actually did this once in the prior problem, but it's just kind of reminding us of how to do it. Now, what I'm going to do is actually set up our comparative advantage table right up here in this top right corner. And the comparative advantage tables, you can vary kind of how you draw them, but usually we put the 2 producers on the left. So I'm going to say Atlantis and Xanadu, and I'm going to say helmets and baseballs at the top. And then in the left part of the box, I'm going to put the maximum amount that they can make, which is 100 helmets and 200 baseballs. And Xanadu can make 100 helmets or 400 baseballs. And at this point, then we just kind of take the outside over, right? 200 over 100 is 2 baseballs. 1 helmet for Xanadu, 400 over 100 is 4 baseballs, which tells us that Atlantis has an opportunity cost of 2 baseballs for 1 helmet. Now, if I'm taking an exam, right, and I set this up, I could write all of that out by basically just saying, I've got 200 over 100 equals 2 baseballs. And that would be enough because that's the math that I'm doing to say this is how much it's going to be, right? 1 helmet is equal to 2 baseballs. And then that's me showing my work. Which country has comparative advantage in the production of baseballs? Well, I already established that they have the lower opportunity cost, but here it says explain with numbers. In order to explain with numbers, you just compare the 2 opportunity costs. So I would say Atlantis because, and then I could just say 2B is smaller than 4B. Using those 2 units is very important because that's how I'm actually saying the opportunity cost for Atlantis is 2B, and that's less than 4B. These 2 numbers are enough to justify your answer here. What's the lowest price the baseball producer will accept for a baseball? So Atlantis, right, is the seller. They have the comparative advantage, so they're going to specialize. They're going to do that particular task, and then they're going to sell it. So what's the lowest price they're going to take? Well, we said in a prior video, it's going to be their opportunity cost, so 2 baseballs. And so the first question is relatively easy. It just kind of takes you through a little bit of the math behind some of those. Let's take a look at number 2. Countries A and B, equal amount of resources and technologies. We can see they have constant opportunity costs. And I'm going to go ahead and again do the little kind of sketch off to the side. And we have country A, country B, and it looks like they make cloth and they make wheat. They both make 100 wheat. And it looks like country A makes 100, what is that, cloth? And country B makes 300 cloth. I don't know why that was so hard for me to just read the graph. And then we're going to kind of just quickly do 1C equals 1W, right? Because that's a 1-to-1. 1W equals 1C. And then 1 cloth for them is 1/3 of a W. 1W is 3C. And again, here I'm just taking the outside number over, right? That 3C is 300 over 100. Now that I've had this part solved, I'm going to circle which one has comparative advantage in which, and after that, I'm going to start answering these questions because I know that I'm probably going to need this information to do this problem. Which country has absolute advantage of the production of wheat? Explain with numbers. That one's actually really simple because I could just look at it and go, they neither, right? Because both of them have the same. And so we would say 100 equals 100. That's enough to justify that, hey, that these 2 are the same number. Which country has comparative advantage of the production of wheat? So in this one, we are going to look at what's the lower opportunity cost, right? Comparative advantage means we're comparing opportunity costs. That's all it really means. So we have 1C is less than 3C, and that corresponds with country A. So we'd say A because, and we are explaining with numbers, 1C is less than 3C. So not too bad. With specialization in trade, which means that they're going to focus on what they have comparative advantage in and then buy the other thing, which one will import wheat? And it's useful to know that import means buy, right? Who's buying the wheat? Well, we know that Atlantis is selling the wheat, so country B is buying the wheat. B, and we can say because there's 2 reasons. A has comparative advantage in wheat. And we could also say B has comparative advantage in, what's the other thing? Cloth. So they're gonna specialize in trade, and so by basically saying which one's buying the wheat is whichever one's making the cloth or the other one is producing the wheat. Both Amy and Brad can make apple pie and ice cream in an hour. They could do this and that and the other. Let's do another quick little sketch here. We have Amy and Brad. It's funny how they always are A and B. Apple pies or ice cream. Apple pies, ice cream. 1 hour, he can make 5 pies. Ooh, that's a lot of pies in an hour, man. Ooh, 10 gallons of ice cream. Amy makes 15 pies or 15 gallons. And so we'd say 1 pie is equal to 1 ice cream. 1 pie is equal to 1 ice cream. 1 pie is equal to 2 ice creams. Oops, I screwed this one up. 1 ice cream over here is equal to 1 pie. 1 ice cream is equal to 1/2 of a pie. So you can see I actually messed up my opportunity cost just there where I was going too quick. So country A, because 1C is smaller than 2C, and 1/2 P is smaller than 1P, right? So I'm comparing these two opportunity costs. And so Brad has it in ice cream. Who has comparative advantage in ice cream? Brad. Boom. Look at that. Brad, because, and then I'm going to use this number, 1/2 P is smaller than 1P. And so that's really just saying, like, look at my table effectively, right? I'm identifying the opportunity cost. What's the highest price the buyer is willing to pay for ice cream? So I look in the ice cream column and I say, okay, well, I know Amy's buying the ice cream because she doesn't have comparative advantage. And so 1 pie is the highest price she would be willing to pay, right? And we do need to, again, express it in the terms of the other thing because she's paying in pies. She's saying, I'm going to give you a pie, at most 1 pie for each unit of ice cream that you sell me. And in fact, if it's 1-to-1, she's not benefiting at all. So it has to be at most 1. She would prefer smaller. The table shows the time required in hours to produce a unit of corn and a unit of shoes, blah, 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 blah. Very important. Time required in hours. This is different from all these others. This is an input style problem, folks. And so we're going to take the inside number over. So really quick here, we'd say, this is a nasty one too, because I pulled this from an AP exam. They switched the producers. So whenever I get one of these kinds of problems, I just rewrite the whole thing. It's easier. Brazil, Spain, corn, shoes. And from there, I'm going to find it to be a little bit easier. So Brazil, we have 2 corn and 8 in the shoes. For Brazil, for Spain, we have 4 in the corn, 12 in the shoes. And now I'm going to take the inside number over. What that means is I go 1C because I'm in the corn column, and I take the 2 over the 8 now instead of going the 8 over the 2. So that would be 1/4 of whatever the other thing is, and then 1 cloth, and I take the inside. 4 over 12 is 1/3. And that's going to be our comparative advantage here. 1S, and then that's going to be 4C. 1S, and then 12 over 4. So these are just reciprocals. Did I have oh my gosh. 1/4 is smaller than 1/3. I should probably pay attention to that, right? Like, hello, Daniel. Woo! I'm a little sleepy. I haven't had my coffee. Coffee break. Okay, now we're almost done, I promise. Who will export corn? Brazil, because they have the lower opportunity cost. Right? And that's 1/4 because 1/4 is smaller than 1/3. What's the lowest price the corn exporter will accept? 1/4 S. Now we're done. Now that I actually know my fractions, I'll see you next time.